Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. Link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And the subscriber mode has been enabled for the first 5 minutes. Meaning, if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who've already subscribed to the channel, whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined as late as today. I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So as you can see by the thumbnail, the discussion tonight is how to deal with disappointments. This is a topic that I have discussed before, but it's always good to go over it because we're all going to deal with disappointments from time to time. Now, before we get into the topic of the evening, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. And speaking of disappointments, okay, there have been many people that have been disappointed in 2025 for many reasons. First of all, one person that I'm sure is disappointed is our current mayor, Eric Adams. Okay, tomorrow will be his last day in office. He'll then become known as the ex-mayor of New York. And of course, when he ran for re-election, he had hoped that he would become successful and he would get re-elected. It didn't work out that way. And I'll leave it to history to make a determination whether Eric Adams was a good mayor or an incompetent mayor. I'll leave that to other people to make their judgments concern. Of course, another group of people been disappointed is those federal municipal employees. Now, recently, Donald Trump tweeted or posted on his platform, glorifying the fact that 271,000 federal municipal employees got terminated. Okay. Now, this is a rarity whenever a president is actually bragging the fact that hundreds of thousands of jobs were lost. Okay. That never happened under any administration, whether it be Democratic or Republican. Okay. And the fact that he is glorifying this fact, this it's sad, okay, because we're talking about 271,000 individuals who lost their livelihood, okay. Uh, Many of them have been employees for many years. Some of them starting and some of them getting close to retirement. Okay. Hopefully, many of them have been able to secure um, employment elsewhere. But the reality is, it's not. It's a difficult job market today. Um, with many employers downsizing their staff, um, dealing with the situation that's happening with this economy. It's not. It's a very difficult time, and the fact that President Trump was bragging about it, that's not something to brag about. Am I surprised? No. Okay. Well, what I am surprised is how so many people were deceived um, last year with all his the war and between the Ukraine and Russia were in the first 24 hours. None of that has happened under his watch. President in recent years, even more, and his approval with, is in it's in negative numbers. I mean, you just have to take and see why. And the fact of the matter, and one thing, and the fact of the matter is, even with all that, there are still some people that still believe that Donald Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I hate to disappoint you, but no, he's been a big disappointment. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, of course, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Okay, which means many people will be going out tomorrow night. Many people will be going to parties. Okay, or some people will go to church and attend night watch services, which is basically services that go into midnight. Many people will spend, I mean, here in New York, hundreds of thousands of people will be waiting outside at Times Square, waiting to watch the ball drop. Other people will be going to um, various um, New Year's Eve parties at various different venues. Okay. What I would suggest that you do the following. If you are going to go out, please be mindful, okay, regarding your alcohol consumption. Okay. Okay, I'm not saying don't drink, but what I'm saying is if you're going to consume alcohol, by all means, do not operate a vehicle. Do not operate a vehicle. And do not consume alcohol to the extent that you become inebriated and your judgment is impaired. Okay, because there are people out there that will try to take advantage of individuals that appear to be under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of whatever drug. And the reality is this: when you drink alcohol to excess, it does inhibit your reflexes, and it does inhibit your judgment. Okay. In fact, I heard the story of one person that had a little bit too much to drink, and then he encountered someone from the opposite sex, and there was a physical attraction, and this person decided to engage in intercourse without any protection, and he became a father through an accidental pregnancy. So I would say to you, if you're gonna go out, drink responsibly. Okay. Uh, Now there'll be other people that will stay home on New Year's Eve and they'll host parties. That's perfectly fine. However you wish to celebrate New Year's Eve, please do it responsibly. And for Pete's sake, do not try to operate a vehicle if you're going to consume alcohol. Okay. What's going to happen is reflexes will be diminished, your vision will be diminished, and next thing you know, you might end up getting into an accident, and you might end up, getting hurt or even deleted. So have fun, just do it responsibly. That's gonna say. And if you are okay, and if you are going to be with the opposite sex, uh, be mindful of your actions. That's all I'm going to say on that. And of course, uh, Thursday we'll have a new mayor. Mandani will be sworn in as as the new mayor of the city of New York. He is the youngest individual to become mayor. He's in his 30s. He's also the first mayor to be of the Muslim faith. Now, there's been a lot of controversy regarding some of the things that he said or did not say. I say let's give the person the chance to see what he can accomplish. And if he does not accomplish any of his goals, then let's hold him accountable. So, with that being said, we're gonna go to the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me just state I know I state this all the time, but I have to continue to state it because quite a few times people ask me to jump the link, even though it's been posted on the top of the chat. But in any case, the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding the topic at hand, they may do so. Okay. However, if I never see you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come up in the backstage and make sure no one tries to flash any pornographic images which will cause the people of YouTube to take down their stream. Once I determine that you are not going to try any of those shenanigans, then I'll let you on the panel. Okay. I do this for the simple reason is to make sure that there are no idiots who try to disrupt things on the stream. Okay. I am blessed and fortunate that no one has tried. But to be forewarned, is the before. Okay. Now what? Now first of all, let's define what does it mean disappointment. Okay. Now disappointment is the feeling of sadness or dissatisfaction when reality does not meet our hopes, expectations, or desires. And it can refer to the feeling itself or the person thing causing a letdown. It's a natural part of life stemming from unfulfilled expectations leading to feelings of loss or frustration. It can be a catalyst for growth by prompting new perspective, boundary setting, and self discovery, encouraging us to learn, adapt, and find hope. Now, that's one way of defining disappointment. Now let's discuss what it is. It is a feeling unhappiness when something that not happened or is being as good as hoped. In this case, it's something that being unhappy about a desired event or situation that did not occur or did not occur though as you expected. It could be a person or thing, something or someone not living up to expectations. Okay. So it could be with people that you have certain hopes, you have certain expectations regarding how you want them to conduct themselves and they don't fulfill them. Sometimes the expectations could be outrageous. It's also related to regret. Disappointment focuses on the outcome, while regret centers on personal choices leading to it. So there are causes when it comes to disappointment. Okay. So we're going to talk about what's called unfulfilled expectations. When reality falls short of what we anticipated. And this happens many times. Okay. Like, for example, you may be working at your job and then you hear about the opportunity for a promotion. So, what you do is you apply for that promotion. You might even get interviewed. Unfortunately, what happens is you don't get the position, someone else does. So this is a situation where you have certain expectation regarding a promotion that did not materialize. Another cause is unclear boundaries, not effectively communicating personal standards to others. One thing we have to bear in mind, there's nothing wrong with setting reasonable barriers, standards for other people. So, which, and those standards have to do how we want people to interact with us, and of course they will have barriers as well as far as how they want us to interact with them. Sometimes the problem is people don't communicate effectively regarding these barriers, and then they get upset because people they don't respect their barriers or they disregard them. Well, it will help if you make those barriers boundaries very clear, which leads to another problem. Failure to communicate. And what that is, not not voicing needs and expectations. And this can happen, this tends to happen, particularly when it comes to um, relationships. One thing I've noticed, and I'm okay, let me make this perfectly clear. I'm not going to say all members of the opposite sex do this, but some do. They have certain expectations, they have certain desires, they have certain things that they want the opposite sex to do, that they want the opposite sex to fulfill. Now, the logical course would be to communicate to make those expectations no. No. What they will do is instead of doing that, they will leave hints, they will leave clues. Okay. And they are thinking that simply leading, simply leading, giving hints is sufficient for males to pick up what they want, what it's expecting with them. What they fail to understand that many males don't function like that. Okay, we need to have clear understanding regarding needs and expectations, and then it's up to us to make the determination whether we are going to fulfill those needs or expectations or not fulfill those needs or expectations. But somehow some women think, no, um, are in the position that we can read their minds, that they can give a subtle clue. No, honesty is the best policy. But of course, not everyone believes with that concept. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some things to consider to cope and grow. The first thing, acknowledge and accept. Recognize the feeling and the unex expectation without fighting reality. Now, what does that mean? Look, we all want to have feelings of disappointment. Disappointment is going to come, and it's going to come in many areas. Okay. Whether it be when it comes to our careers, whether it be because of our love interests, whether it be when it comes dealing with our loved ones, and we're going to be disappointed. So instead of fighting the feeling of disappointment, acknowledge that it exists and recognize the feeling that there were certain expectations that were not met. Another thing you can do is pause and feel. Allow yourself to feel the sadness and frustration. Don't deflect. Now, what does that mean? In other words, acknowledge the fact that you're disappointed. Acknowledge the fact you had some expectations which unfortunately did not materialize. It could be maybe you had unrealistic expectations, or it could be your expectations were reasonable, but unfortunately you was encountered with circumstances beyond your control. And don't try to hide it. Acknowledge it and learn from it. Another thing is find new perspectives. Look for alternate reasons for or lessons in the situation. In other words, you take a look at your disappointment. You take a look at the actual outcome, and you try to do an assessment as far as how they came into being, and you try and you learn. And what I mean learn is you actually analyze it, so you'll be better prepared the next time that you face, that you have similar opportunities. And that could be different strategies, that could be setting more realistic goals. But in other words, learn to assess your disappointment and learn from it. Another strategy is to set boundaries, clearly communicate your needs to prevent future letdowns. So what that means is if you've been disappointed by other people, establish clear boundaries and make it very clear. Make it very clear there's certain things you will not accept, there's certain things that you will not allow. And make it clear to them what's going to be the consequences of people not respecting your boundaries, which means, guess what? You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be upset with them. And if they continue to not respect your boundaries, then you may have to distance yourself with these people. And you need to make sure that your boundaries are communicated. Let them know how you feel when they when they don't respect your boundaries, and let them know of the consequences by not respecting your boundaries. Focus on growth. See it as a chance to learn and explore new paths, not just a failure. What does that mean? Okay. In other words, you take a look at the result. The result is not what you look for. It's not what we're not hoping for. So this is an opportunity to learn that when you are faced with similar circumstances, you're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have more realistic goals, and you're going to treat it as a learning experience. Okay. And these are some of the ways that you can deal with disappointments. And the fact of the matter is, all of us, and I repeat, all of us will have disappointments at various points of our life. All of us will have disappointments, whether it be because when it comes to our career, when there's certain opportunities that you will not afford it to receive. There'll be disappointments when it comes to love, dealing with love interests. There'll be disappointing dealing with loved ones and siblings. This is something that we all human beings will have to deal with from time to time. The key is to how to deal with them, which is why we're having this discussion tonight. Okay, because we will be disappointed from time to time. However, what you can do is make sure that you have expectations which are realistic. And what does that mean, realistic? Really, okay, expectations where there is a likelihood that you will succeed if you take the appropriate course of actions to take. Okay, which would entail first of all setting up realistic goals, and then the next thing, setting up realistic strategies and plans to achieve those goals. And be mindful that even if you set realistic goals and you plan your strategy very well to achieve your goals, it does not mean that you're going to achieve everything 100%. But what it will do is that it will, if you are able to set realistic goals, if you're able to set up a realistic strategy to achieve those goals, if you take the necessary steps in order to achieve those goals, it's more of a likelihood that you're not going to be disappointed. The opportunity, the presence of disappointment will occur, but at least you'll learn from it. And let me just give you an example as what I mean by preparation. Say you are prepared to take a civil service exam, okay, and you want to do well, okay. So what you do is, instead of waiting the night before, to prepare, you were start preparing, and that could be like getting like a study guide, and then just devote an hour each day to study, and then on the night before you take the exam, what you do is you um, get a good night's sleep, give yourself plenty of time to get to the examination, get there in a relaxed state, and take the exam. If you properly prepare, there's more of a likelihood that you will pass, and you will hopefully pass high enough to be considered. Okay, so that's strategy. Now, let me just see. My apologies. Is just that um, every now and then I do have to check and see if there's anyone watching. I might, you know what? I might have to consider not being going live on Instagram. So let me just share a couple of things to consider, which is dealing with understanding the disappointment and validating it. Acknowledge that you are experiencing disappointment. It's tempting to ignore, minimize, or distract yourself from unpleasant feelings, but this can actually make those feelings more of a problem over time. Instead, acknowledge and naming a feeling, even doing this out loud, can help you to cope in a healthy way. Validating your emotions means accepting that they are present and remembering it's okay to have those feelings. Emotions always happen for a reason. So, in this point is you understanding that yes, you're dealing with disappointed. You're not trying to hide it, but you're just acknowledging that you've been disappointed. Another thing to consider called tolerating and riding the wave of disappointment. Have you ever tried making an emotion go away, or even tried creating an emotion you don't have? Either way, you more likely know that things don't work out that way. Once we feel an emotion, that emotion is there until, well, it fades or passes. In fact, all emotions, including disappointment, pass or fade with time. This happens regardless of how upsetting or uncomfortable they are at first. Sometimes this happens more quickly than others, and some feelings are intense while others are less so. But they all fade with time. So it's part of healthy coping with disappointment is reminding yourself that disappointment is like a wave. Ride it until it passes. Okay. Again, being kind towards yourself and validating the feeling can help you ride the wave of disappointment. Getting support from others can also be helpful. Sometimes focusing on your energies or attention on something else meaningful to help you lessen the intensity of the feeling. If you really acknowledge and validate your feelings of disappointment, then distracting yourself can be a helpful coping strategy to get through the way. So, in this point, it talks about disappointment will come and go. So it's kind of like a wave. Now, sometimes adjusting expectations is the best way to cope with disappointment. If an expectation is too rigid or inflexible or doesn't line up with reality, it's easier to feel disappointed. Words like should, always, and never are sometimes signs that your expectation might be unrealistic or too rigid. For example, if you believe you should never need to try something new more than once to learn it, or that people should always reply to your text messages within 5 minutes, you might frequently feel disappointed. In fact, in a case like this, it's helpful to soften or realign your expectations to make them more realistic. It goes back to what I said before. Um, make those expectations realistic. Mean realistic within your ability to achieve. Another helpful way of dealing with disappointment is remembering that it is simply part of life. There is no way to avoid it altogether. Remember, disappointment is a feeling that comes up around expectations that aren't met. So if you expect to have a free life of disappointment, you may find yourself disappointed. Accepting disappointment circumstances despite emotional reaction can make things less uncomfortable. Interesting point. And of course, there are disappointments in a relationship. Disappointments can come up in any meaningful relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a family relationship. Every relationship comes with expectations. Validating a relationship and having expectation for that relationship go hand in hand. Okay. So just bear in mind, we are all going to be disappointed at some point by friends, loved ones, family members, and things of that nature. And at certain times, we're going to disappoint others as well. Disappointment in yourself. Feeling disappointed in yourself is uncomfortable. Sadness and guilt tend to come up when you feel disappointed in yourself. We all have many expectations we hold ourselves, how we should act, feel, and think, what we should do without time and energy, what abilities and traits we should have, and so on. Given all these expectations, it's easy to see why disappointing yourself is a new universe experience. Now, just as feeling disappointed in yourself is inevitable to feel disappointed in others sometimes too. Others have their own ideas, feelings, and desires and challenges, so there's no way they will always meet the expectations you have. When you feel disappointed in someone else, it's common to feel frustrated or resentful or even angry. Okay. That's why you need to be patient with yourself and you need to be patient with others. Experiencing disappointment is natural. If you find it hard to manage your expectation in a healthy way or experience disappointment over and over, disappointment can turn to resentment. Resentment can also be like a bitterness or anger. If you repeatedly push feelings of disappointment, resentment can build in this place. When disappointing circumstances happen, you might consider using radical acceptance to help acknowledge the situation and work to move forward. Like any unpleasant emotion, you might find yourself wishing disappointment or resentment will go away. But experiencing the emotion is crucial to help you process and move through it. They- This can be slightly challenging sometimes, but very difficult at others. Sometimes people find that difficult experiences or disappointment or resentment can lead them to use substances like alcohol, drugs, or numb. If you find yourself using these substances to cope with these unpleasant emotions, consider talking to a therapist. So, whether you're feeling disappointed in a relationship, in others, or yourself, there are various healthy ways that you can deal with this unpleasant emotion. Acknowledging disappointment by naming it and validating. It is a good place to start. Validation can help you to ride the wave of disappointment, which will pass with time. Getting support from others and distracting yourself are also helpful ways to tolerate fear of disappointment while they persist. Making your expectations more flexible, realistic can help lessen the discomfort and disappointment. Lastly, it's healthy to remember and accept that disappointment is a part of life and we all experience it sometimes, which is very true. Okay. So the fact of the matter is we're all going to deal with disappointments. It's something, it's something that's going to happen from time to time. The key is how to deal with it. There are those who can deal with with disappointments very well and become stronger mentally, emotionally as a result. There are others that struggle. And unfortunately, there's some people that will turn to substance abuse in order to deal with disappointments. When that happens, that's a very good indication you're going to need to see a therapist. So that person can help you to navigate those feelings and emotions and find constructive ways how to deal with disappointment. Disappointment will come. It doesn't matter how to deal with it. And um, I see that most people will watch this on the playback, which is perfectly fine. Okay, because I do understand people have other things to do. Am I a little disappointed? Yeah, but you have to be persistent as a content creator to create content on a regular basis. And there's going to be times that people are going to watch your content live, and there's times that people are not going to watch it on playback. So, with that being said, what are the things that I want you to consider? Disappointments will come and go. That's something that is unavoidable. How we deal with the disappointment, um, that will determine what type of people we are. That will determine the type of maturity that we have achieved. Hopefully, I have given you some things to consider. Okay, and if we set up realistic expectations regarding ourselves, regarding the people that we love and care for, reasonable expectation when it comes to whether it be in our career or education, um, it's less of a likelihood that we will be disappointed. Now, with that being said, the next time that I will go live will be Friday, January the 17th. Okay, I am not going to go live tomorrow night, obviously, because I'm going to be going out to a party. Okay, so definitely not going to post any. I'm definitely not going to do a live. I'm not going to do a live on New Year's Day because basically it's going to be a day to relax. But Friday, definitely, I will do my live regarding open discussion. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with what happens in open discussion, I will share my views regarding several topics. Of course, you, the audience, will have an opportunity to opine and express your viewpoints regarding each topic which will be discussed. Also, you will have an opportunity to suggest topics for me to discuss. Okay, and of course, if it's something that I do not know a great deal of knowledge, I will be transparent and state so. Now, in all fairness, there's some topics I will not get into because I simply choose not to. So, so with that being said, I do hope that you will join me Friday at 10:30 p.m. Also, if you have not done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does not cost you anything, and hit the like button whenever I create content, and set the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. And I just want to say that 2025, when it comes to this channel, has been an amazing year. Okay. And I reached so many milestones. In fact, it was just December the 3rd that I reached 1K subs. As of tonight, I've gained an additional 486 subs. So I'm approaching the 1.5K mark. And I might even reach it tomorrow night. Okay. So I'm really humbled by the amount of growth. Okay, because I've actually gained so far this year 986 subs. And I would say at least 95% has to do with my short videos, and particularly those videos that deal with Christian topics, also dealing with short prayers that I will share. So I really appreciate all of you. I also appreciate all those who visited this platform this year, okay, who shared their input, okay, and even the haters, because I'm sure I have a couple of haters because people are just jealous. But I really do appreciate all of it. I appreciate the love that you share towards me. And one thing I will promise that will keep is that going into 2026, I will continue to try to be the best version of myself. So what I would do is I like to wish everyone a very happy, blessed, and healthy new year. May 2026 be a year of blessings for all of you. And I'm just going to say a few words in Spanish. Y yo quisiera desear a ustedes un feliz y bendecido año nuevo, que en el año 2026 será un año de mucha prosperidad y muchas bendiciones. And I mean that with the bottom of my heart. May 2026 be a year of blessings. May 2026 be a year of joy. And may 2026 be the best year that you can possibly have. With that being said, I just want to say good night to all of you. Thank you very much for your understanding. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, I'm going to close the same way that I always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and that's insanity. And of course, whatever we say and do, we should do to the glory of God. And with that being said, take care. Have a blessed evening and have a blessed 2026. Take care, stay blessed, and peace.